listening to Reset Race. You now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. What? Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake. Lineage go back to US Southern plantations. Lineage, Jim Crow and mass incarceration. Redline and lynchings. We are old from this nation. You're not about justice if you ain't for reparations. MG the wise one. Cousin mother intellectual. Samantha bringing fire. Anti-black we pressing you. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. The backbone of the country. To win you need our energy. You gon' see. Listening to Reset Race. You now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake.
Every time that it's tried, and it fuels racial resentment among the multiracial working class. But you shouldn't just throw up your hands and declare that these massive inequalities between races and between classes have to stand. In fact, any universal programs which disproportionately benefit the poor and the working class are in fact racial equity programs. As Iglesias points out, in Florida, where a
Sorry, I'm gonna cut that. We're not even going super deep in that. We'll wait for the brown-faced white supremacist to go deeper, I would think, because he gonna say some bullshit that we gonna eat his ass up for. But the universal programs that y'all offer are bullshit. For giving student loan debt, only 20% of Black people, native-born Black people, have college degrees. And when I say native-born, that doesn't mean ADOS. It just means native-born. So they could be a first-generation, Black immigrant who comes from parents who have 2 degrees. Like, yeah. So that's just native-born Black, not ADOS. We don't even have ADOS numbers. So only 20% of us have college degrees. So you paying off student debt is helping our upper classes and wealth. Actually, to be honest, you're really helping like the top percentile, right? So that ain't shit.
Allegra Cross Productions presents Fixing Class Won't Fix Race, Volume 1, Student Loan Forgiveness. In the United States, there are 250.52 million white people. Of those, 46.9% have attained an associate's degree or higher. That is 117.49 million white people. There are 44 million Black people in the United States. 39.6 million of them are ADOS, American Descendants of Slavery, Racial Terrorism, Land Theft, Jim Crow, Redlining, the War on Drugs, and Mass Incarceration. 19% of US-born Blacks have attained an associate's degree or higher. That is only 7.52 million US-born Blacks. Student loan forgiveness as a policy is a gift to stabilize the white working class and boost upper middle class Asian and white wealth. Let me explain. Wealth is held in families, not individuals. In Los Angeles, the median wealth of a white family is $355,000. In Los Angeles, the median US-born Black has $4,000 median wealth. In Miami, the median wealth for a white family is $107,000. In Miami, for a US born black, the median wealth is $3,700. In the District of Columbia, the median wealth for a white family is $248,000. Median wealth for a US black in the District of Columbia is $3,500. In Boston, the median white wealth is $251,000. The median wealth for a US-born Boston family black is $8. So you're thinking, yeah, hey, we are poor too. This video is not to argue that student loans should not be forgiven for all families. It is to show that this policy does not close the racial wealth gap. It should not be promoted as policy that significantly helps the ADOS black community. Cancel student debt for 117.49 million white families. Just do it after you pay reparations to 39.6 million American descendants of slavery. Pure reparations now. These are our terms of solidarity.
What's the next one? Universal healthcare. Yes, universal healthcare would be nice, but guess what? I have free healthcare right now. You know why? Because I'm fucking poor. Okay?
Yep.
So, and like John has said plenty of times, just because it's free don't mean that it's good. We get free K through 12 education, right? And they graduate motherfuckers who can't read. So you think that won't be different in the medical system if we don't overhaul the whole system? So that one is is what it is. Like, to be honest, black people ain't thinking about that shit because we could die any day. What the fuck we worried about some insurance for? Like, especially poor. No, for real. I mean, like, poor black people though. Like, we can talk about people who are like, you know, when you got some money, then you take care of the shit you're supposed to be. But as a poor person, like, I went, so from 26 until 32, I went without insurance. And the only reason I finally ended up getting insurance is because I got really sick and they had to give me insurance so they could get paid. You feel me? Yeah. So, like, y'all out here playing games. What's the other one that they like to do? So free college, right? So first of all, blacks with we'll do that one last. So okay, so yeah. So the next one is free college, right? Again, why do you think that they're going to give us good colleges to go to? They're going to build some shitty ass JCs and make them free. And then when you get your shitty ass degree, you still ain't going to get hired. What was it? It was Chuck Modee. At Chuck Modee, I think that's what his name is. If not, look up Chuck Modee. But he did a tweet where he was like, if you give everybody free college, the next thing you know is instead of a bachelor's, they'll make people have a master's. This came from a white man. He on the money. He knows exactly what we're saying. And I saw this white woman be like, but education can help everybody. Education can help everybody. I am a very educated person and I did not learn this shit in school, right? But when you like education, but the whole point, the reason why people go to school to get a degree is not for self-improvement. It's so they can get that motherfucking check and take care of their family. Nobody gives a fuck about self-improvement. Like, they don't, especially not black people. Like, and I don't mean, so don't kill me and don't, shorten my shit. But what I mean is, we don't go to college for self-improvement or to find ourselves. We go to college so we can figure out how we gonna make some money. Like, I just left school and people are like, well, why did you leave school? Well, I left school because it's fucking COVID. I changed my major. The world, I don't even know what the fuck is going on with the world. Like, realistically, like, I don't even know if what I was going to school for will even be a thing by the time I graduate. Like, shit, I'm trying to follow in there. Like, Darity inspired me to change my major. I was a history major. I changed my major to mathematical economics and economic theory. Okay. So in 10 years,
fuck around with numbers.
No, bruh. And on top of that, for black people, you got to have a PhD for anybody to take you seriously. So I'm looking at like 8-9 years of school. So I'm looking around. I'm just like, with the world kind of coming all fucked up, like, I need to see what's going to happen before I do shit else. Because again, I own my house. It doesn't make sense for me to go into debt to go to school. I can sell my house and move to a third world country and never work again. So I do think about this shit. And then the fight for 15. I already addressed that. Fuck you. I stopped working for $15 an hour like 3 or 4 years ago. I live in LA. $15 an hour, and I own my house. $15 an hour is high school wage. For somebody who lives at home, that is a good wage. If you live by yourself, you can't live by yourself off $15 an hour unless you on OnlyFans, showing tits or slinging dick. Like,
hey, yo, chill the fuck out.
Am I lying? Am I lying?
No,
am I lying?
Yeah.
No, for
you
real.
You say you gotta sell ass on the side? You gotta sell. You gotta sell something else on the side.
OnlyFans is cam. No one is touching you. And the people who are fucking on OnlyFans, that's because they would have did that shit for free. They just getting.
Hey, yo, chill the fuck out.
I get to say the shit that y'all can't say because they would give y'all the business. But basically what I'm saying is $15 an hour is some bullshit. How about we start talking about $25 an hour? That should be the base, because sorry, forgive me, y'all, because I have so much fucking information in my brain. So if wages would have gone up with inflation, we would be somewhere around $25 an hour anyways. So basically y'all out here lowballing yourselves. Like, y'all out here sucking dick for $10. Okay, anybody else? Well, let Crystal keep going.
I give up. Bud, you got anything?
I'm going on mute.
How do you follow that?
15 Floridians will benefit as they currently earn less than that rate. He also points out that researchers say 20% of the 1960s decline in the black-white wage gap came from the 1966 lifting of the minimum wage. Eliminating college debt would actually disproportionately benefit minorities. Black students are more likely to be.
Yeah, Darity talks about this one. And Sam, you got those numbers?
Oh yeah, I got those. Or no, we don't. Oh, I do. No, I'll put it in, because remember I did a whole video on how many white people have. Yeah, I got a whole video. I did a whole 4 or 5 minute video.
Yes, you did.
I'm gonna drop that in here for y'all. Sorry, y'all gonna have to sit there and listen to that shit, because at the end of the day, like I just said, only 20% of Black people have college degrees, and so the person who said that I love Latinos, reset ratio, go ahead and say I love the poor whites too, reset ratio, because 53% of white people don't have college degrees. So over half of your people, this shit ain't helping. So Crystal is disingenuous, or she just doesn't have any regular Negroes around her. So, I guess you famous now. So I doubt you. I doubt you just gonna go out and find you a poor Black person to be friends with, but you need one. You definitely need one.
I need a smart one too.
Oh, let me tell you, it's taking all the control in my body not to use ad hominem attacks. I'm doing good today.
Go, girl.
Man, let me tell you, it's okay. I'm gonna drop them in the chat.
Come on, we got to ride. I'm sleepy. Come on.
No, you good. You good.
Be burdened with college.
We got like a whole nother hour.
And take on larger loads on average than their white counterparts. Look, I can certainly imagine racially targeted policies which may be unpopular, but are just and are worth fighting for, and worth dealing with the white racial resentment and backlash over. On the merits, however, affirmative action just doesn't make the cut. And those numbers that Iglesias pulled about the way how much minimum wage increases due to alleviate racial inequity, so much more than affirmative action has done over 50 years of being instituted in public universities. It says it all.
Oh, absolutely.
Pause. First of all, this woman said that affirmative action over years. MG, when did they cut affirmative action? Because affirmative action has not been around since the 80s. Start from the beginning, because when they pushed white women into affirmative action, that was the beginning of the end. But can you please give them a break, a little more of a breakdown? Because she just fucking lied. She made it sound like we've had affirmative action this whole fucking time. White people understand this. They ain't giving Black people shit. They ain't giving us a motherfucking thing. And then you're like, oh, but y'all get welfare, and y'all, more white women and white people are on welfare than Black people by percentages, raw numbers, compared to population, whatever the fuck you want to call it. So it is what it is. And don't get it twisted. Like, I don't want, the little white ladies in the South, their kids getting thrown off of welfare. But why is it okay for her and it's not okay for my sisters. Like every now and again, people need help. And the whole reason why we don't have a robust, safety net in this country is because of anti-Black racism. Mm-hmm. For you white people right now who are fighting because you can't move into good neighborhoods, or when you do, you got to fucking rent and overpay. The reason why that is because they don't want Negroes living in those areas. So since you as a white person have not reached the level that you should for being white, and don't be mad at me. This is what it is. Like, I'm not talking for myself. I'm telling you what they think about you, because poor whites, they don't like y'all neither. Dave Chappelle told y'all that shit in the video. So basically, like, sorry, y'all. Okay, so basically, like I said, I lost my train of. Can y'all tell me where I was going, or can y'all tell me what I just
start
said?
off with affirmative action.
No. Oh yeah. So when you start getting into poor whites, like this shit. At the end of the day, this shit is not hitting poor people. Like, it's damn sure ain't hitting ADOS, but it's not hitting poor people. Like, it's not. So everything she's saying
people
is
that don't have an address.
Yeah, everything. And like you said, MG, so everybody on this, I need y'all to do what MG said. When you hear a policy, think this. Will this help a person who currently does not have an address? So if this is not going to lift a person who is sleeping on the street with nothing, or who is living in their car and working but does not have a home, then that is not the policy. That is not the policy.
Amen.
I'm so mad.
The best work on this. And I was just actually looking yesterday at this chart that I pulled up. The bottom 75% of whites in America have identical wealth as the full Black population.
Thank you, Sagaar, you brown-faced anti-Black racist. You are the disingenuous lying motherfucker. And I am enjoying. I'm gonna put the so I guess we should go here, right? Y'all can see my screen, right? Let me go ahead and pull up these charts, because let me tell you, Sagaar, I did wealth charts just for you, because what you just said was some lying ass bullshit. So for you to make a motherfucker who don't have you out here making me make charts first thing in the morning, I had to literally go and find where I could make a bar chart just for you.
Fired up too. She called like 3 times.
Fired up. Listen. Did we lose anyone? Let me make sure we didn't lose anybody. Did we lose Mud before I go in? Yeah, we lost Mud. So I guess let's take a second. I'll wait for Mud to come back in.
Like, the idea that minimum wage being increased was like the greatest benefit to inequality between races. Like, bullshit. For that to be a reality, that means Black people had to be at the bottom, like getting the very minimum, of fucking wages for employment for it to show a significant improvement. So, like, even if that's the fucking argument, what you're telling us is that we're on the bottom of this fucking society. So maybe
you're okay with it.
Yeah, you're okay with it. And maybe minimum wage isn't a fucking enough if you've done that already and we're still at the fucking bottom.
Anything else, Mud?
Nah, that's it.
No, like, again, y'all want us to keep doing the same shit over and over again. Just because y'all motherfuckers don't know history, don't mean, again, this is the thing I said. I keep saying this. As a American, sorry, I'm gonna let this train go by. As an American descendant of slavery, as a Black American woman, I have to know everything about you. I have to know your history. I have to know what you are about. I have to know everything, because, again, my life depends on knowing what's going on, where I am, and where I am in spaces.
Not the remotest idea what this means, because we have the edge over the people who think of themselves as white, and that we have never been deluded into believing what they believe. And that sounds like a contradiction.
Yeah.
But in fact, you watch man you work for. You have to watch him. You don't know you're watching him.
You're watching him.
But you're watching him. But he's not watching you. He thinks he knows who you are or what you are. Mm-hmm. You don't know who he is because your life is in his hands. And you have to watch him, because if you don't watch him, you might have lived from Monday till Tuesday. It's as simple as that. And without knowing you know him, you know him. He can't fool you.
I'm not at all. I mean, the civil rights movement, I came up in the 60s, which is like way after everybody else. but we always assumed that we knew white people. You know what I mean? That we really sort of like understood them. And I found out that if you don't understand yourself, you don't understand anybody else. And all you know what I mean with the snake is to watch a snake. And you know it's a snake, but you don't know it.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
Because there's too much between, there's too much emotion.
There's too much
fear.
I mean?
I can watch like the cat I work for, you know what I mean? And he's gonna watch me to some extent. But we know each other. I would hypothesize that he knows me better because his game is running, mine's not. And that's what I've sort of always disagreed with your generation on. As long as his game is running, he obviously knows me because I'm playing. You understand? He's saying jump and I'm saying how high. Yeah. He knows me.
You may be right, but I would put it another way. I would suggest that since his game is running, he hasn't got to know you because his game is running. No, you're part of the game he's running. He hasn't got to know you. I would think that one of the reasons that the Americans are in such trouble now is because the game is running. It was running up until only yesterday, really.
Would you believe today?
You know, and all of a sudden, through the American astonishment, the Americans have suddenly discovered that people in the world don't like them.
Yeah.
Now, I always knew that, because I didn't like them. You know, I love some.
They're not likable. Well, there's two people that are unlikable.
But they ain't likable.
And there's two people in the world that's not likable, a master and a slave.
Exactly.
You see?
Exactly. You know, we will never get precise categories for that very loaded statement. You know, but that is where the truth is.
Yeah. How did you like them? So the question, I mean, for me, the question has always been power.
Yes.
And for like you all, the question has been morals. You know, I never wanted to be the most moral person in the world.
I agree. I know.
I would sell my soul. You know what I mean? What does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? The world. You know what I mean? The world. That's what it profits.
I know.
So you take the soul. You know, the thing that's spiritual. Take the world, but give me Jesus.
Yes,
y'all can have Jesus.
Yes.
Give me the world.
Y'all have no sense of history. You know nothing. So quit telling us to do shit that we've already done 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Think about it. Imagine. So this is the thing that I like to use, and this is my analogy for y'all white people, right? So imagine you got this homeboy Chad, right? Every time good old Chad, and every time you invite Chad over, you notice the next day that like $200-300 is missing from your wallet. At what point do you start locking your wallet up or stop inviting Chad over? Like, let's just keep it a buck. So you want us to keep doing the same? You want us to keep inviting the motherfucker over who's stealing from us and pretend like it's not happening? We're not doing that. So either you're going to start respecting us as equals, because we are not your children. We are not your children. And I'm not going to go as far, because for those of y'all who watch Battlestar Galactica, y'all the Cylons. So we are not your children. We are not your children. You cannot treat us as children. At best, at the least, you need to treat us like your equals. Because at the end of the day, if you would actually have conversations with us, the fight that we are doing right now, the reason why y'all can't get the things that you want, the reason why you can't get your bump in minimum wage, the reason why is because we are not signing on with you, because we know y'all are full of shit. And on top of that, y'all are fighting for the wrong shit. You guys need to be fighting for the fucking table. You're literally fighting for a piece of cake from the table, but they're making you fight hard as fucking hell. You might as well fight for the whole fucking table if you have to work this hard. How long has the fight for 15 been going on? Like 10 years? So you fought 10 years for $15. Why don't you start fighting for like 25, 30? If you're going to fight for 10 years, you might as well fight for some shit that matters.
I'm saying we're trying to take the house. Fuck the table.
I want the table.
Well,
I want the house. I want the fucking property. I want everything. And I'll share it with you motherfuckers, but y'all don't get to hold on to that shit no more.
Exactly.
God damn, I sound like I'm like Samuel L. Jackson. Are you what the
motherfucker?
Hey,
you got that? It's a motherfuckers. Fuck them.
Listen, I ain't said motherfucker this much in my life.
Let me dip in here real quick. Now, something Mud said. Mud brought up a good point about if
is that a bat?
Huh?
Is that a bat?
No, it's a stick fighting training stick.
Okay, was it Norman? Okay, Norman.
No. Where was I?
Sorry. Forgive me.
Oh yeah, right. Piggybacking off what Mud was saying, Mud said that if minimum wage was such a bit was so awesome, where is the fruits of that? Right? They say, according to Matt Brunick's, or who are they talking about? Matt Iglesias, One of them mats. One of them phony mats. If you look at the chart, the wealth chart.
Let me pull that up.
Yeah,
go ahead, keep going.
If the wealth chart, if you look at the wealth chart, the gap has been growing. Nearly uninterrupted. The gap has been growing. So where is this big boom from the increase in minimum wage? Where it doesn't exist. It doesn't fucking exist. And that's a problem. That means they're lying. I mean, and it's right there in the numbers. It's right there in the fucking numbers. The gap is still increasing. Or you say, well, the gap was increased slower. The gap is still fucking increasing. So you're doing something wrong, or you're not doing anything at all. All right, let's run it. I'm sorry.
And minimum wage was only intended for motherfuckers to survive. Like that's all it's supposed to be for. Like it's not.
Yeah, they shouldn't even call it minimum wage. They should call it a surviving wage.
Yeah, that's the idea behind it. And like you're not even talking about like essentially improving people's lives to be on that point. That's essentially what you're talking about. That's why these conversations aren't really like they're not really appealing to anybody for real.
Exactly, because everybody knows it's bullshit.
Absolutely.
Like everybody knows it's bullshit. And when this is all over, I'm gonna tell y'all what I really think about affirmative action. Because in my philosophy class, we had to do a presentation, and like affirmative action was one of them, and we had to go pro or con. I'll tell you which way I went when I actually when we get down through this later. Oh no, I had a whole argument. I convinced my whole class. That's probably why. Okay. Where we at? We about to get back to Sagaar. Oh no, the chart though, right? So he was talking about that chart, right? He said he was talking about. I'm about to pull this one up. Boop, come on.
No, he was talking about charts that he didn't show anybody. He was talking about.
No, but he's talking about this chart. I know which one he's talking about because this is the Matt Brunig Tone Talks chart.
Okay.
So let's get into that. This is the chart. So this is the chart that he was talking about. That 7 much wealth is in each percentile.
Exactly.
So let's go ahead and slide over here. I know I got this shit up from earlier. Where's my shit from Darity? Like, where did I put it? I'm like, where did I put it? It is in, you know me, I don't fuck around. Like, don't play with me about these numbers. Like, don't make a bitch who like failed fucking trig 2 semesters ago, like really fucking play you out here. Well, actually, I didn't fail. I got a W because I withdrew because I knew I was going to pass this shit. But here we go. Running the numbers from Darity. I'm going to skip to, so the most recent data, I got it. So the most recent data is from 2016 Survey of Consumer Finances. This is the chart that Sagaar was looking at, but he was being disingenuous, which indicated that the median Black household has $17,600 in net worth, while the median white household has a
bit, Sam. We can't see the whole chart.
I'm not going to show this chart. I'm not going to show the chart in the I'm not going to show the chart in the video. I'm going to show the chart that Sagaar was talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just using this so I can read. Yeah, so see, damn it, MG. Okay.
Sorry.
171,000 in net worth. The ratio of Black to white wealth using the standard has the typical household holding 10 cents for every dollar held by the typical white household. So poor whites, we still got 10 cents to your dollar. Aren't you glad? Aren't you proud that, you know, you're doing better than Negroes? Yeah, look at all that privilege. You know, your shit sucks, but you're still better than us. In 2016, the absolute dollar difference between Black and white household wealth at the median was 153,000. While the median racial gap in wealth is far from trivial, the mean, which the charts that I made that I'm about to show are from the mean. They are not from the median.
Yeah, the mean is like the average, and the median is like if you have a set of numbers, just random numbers, whatever number is in the middle, that's going to be your median.
Perfect. So I use the mean, which is what we actually want to close, because if you use the median, we get fucked out of a bunch of money. But Darity put it much better in his paper, so I'm going to use his beautiful professional language. Okay. While the median racial gap in wealth is far more trivial, the mean difference is more pronounced, as shown in figure 1A and 1B. I'm going to pull up figure 1B. but I'm actually going to show you it in a chart format because Sagaar fucking lied. He said that when you look at it, the 70% of the poor people, it's the same. That was some bullshit. That was some anti-Black racism shit. That was some McCarthyism propaganda shit. He should actually apologize for that because as a journalist, aren't they supposed to have integrity? Like, isn't there some shit like isn't the shit that they say supposed to be true? I'm asking you, MG, why are you over there falling asleep? You know, I don't know shit about shit. That's not my field.
Yeah, I mean, well, there really is no standard anymore in the United States.
Okay, so you can just lie.
Yeah, you can just lie. I mean,
okay, so Sagaar is a propagandist.
Yep, there you go.
Sagaar is a brown-faced white supremacist and a propagandist. At me 17 trillion. Holla! Okay, thank you, Mud, is the ratio of the total amount of wealth possessed by a social group divided by the number of households in the group. The 2016 SCF computes a Black household is estimated mean net worth, which is, again, the average is 138,000, and a white household is estimated net worth of 933,000. So while the mean Black-white ratio is higher than the median ratio, Black households have 14 cents to the dollar held by white households. The absolute dollar difference is 795,000. Pay me my money. I want my reparations. I want my 800 grand. Go ahead and holler. I know it's 800 grand for the family, so there's 2 of us, so I guess it's like 4. But give me my run me my money. Thank you, Mud. Is the ratio of the total amount of wealth possessed by a social group divided by the number of households in the group. The 2016 SCF computes a Black household is estimated mean net worth, which is, again, the average is 138,000, and a white household is estimated net worth of 933,000. So while the mean Black-white ratio is higher than the median ratio, Black households have 14 cents to the dollar held by white households. The absolute dollar difference is 795,000. Pay me my money. I want my reparations. I want my 800 grand. Go ahead and holler. I know it's 800 grand for the family, so there's 2 of us, so I guess it's like 4. But give me my run me my money. Games, right? So, oh my goodness, where did I put this? Okay, so this is the chart that Sagaar's playing games on, right? Can y'all see it? Okay. Yeah, so this is the chart that Sagaar's playing games at, right? So he's saying, oh, yeah. So if you look at this chart, which he can play you, right? So if you look at this chart, if you look at this, right, it looks like, oh yeah, Blacks and whites are doing the same. The difference is for each spot in here, they're splitting $1 trillion. Each decile, they're splitting $1 trillion at a minimum of $1 trillion. So what, this is 0.30 or this is 0.3. So divide that, so multiply that by $1 trillion. So they got less than $1 trillion, but they damn near at $1 trillion, right?
$3 per decile. Okay.
So as Tone pointed out, you know, I'm gonna give the man credit. I wanted to use your video, but I don't want a copyright strike. So I'm gonna give you a bastardized version of what Tone Talk said, and then I need y'all to go back to Tone Talk's page when he did the one on closing the racial wealth gap between when Bernie Sanders had all this stuff. It's during the elections. Y'all got to go back and find that shit because he was on point. Like I said, I would love to use a video, but I don't want to disrespect nobody, so I'm gonna have to do a bastardized version. So forgive me, y'all. So Tone points out in the 7th percentile, right, where it has this 3.5, where I'm circling. I don't know if y'all can see my little thing going around and around. That 3.5%, that's $3.5 trillion. That is worth more than this whole group. So when Sagaar says that our bottom has the same amount of money, he's lying. So basically, the 7th percentile has more money than all of Black America. We're only splitting about $3 trillion. They're splitting 3.5. So if you understand, Sagaar is lying like a motherfucker. But I'm gonna break it down to make it easier for people, because you know, all of us haven't been at this shit. I've been at this shit for like years. I watched Tone's video like 3 times. I done read fucking Darity's report like 8 million times. So that same chart that we just saw, I want to pull it up one more time. Just so I can say. So this chart that we just saw, right? This is black and white separated, right? So let's put them together in the same percentiles. Mm-hmm. So this is the large chart. And y'all jump in when you feel like it. Mm-hmm. So this is the large chart. You see the fucking difference? That is what the wealth looks like. So when Sagaar said that that 75% of the wealth is the same, how? So white people are blue and black people are green. You see that the poor white line is smaller than the green line in the 1. You can't even see us compared to them in the 2. You go to the 3, you see we ain't got shit. 4 and 5. So when y'all be talking about, well, y'all have Oprah and Jay-Z and Beyonce, you see that little ass fucking bar? That's Oprah, Jay-Z, my fucking ass, my grandmama, with our fucking owning one home that we live in, not rentals, one home that we live in. Okay, that's everybody. That's our doctors. That's our lawyers. That's fucking MG ass. Like, that's everybody. So that's, you know what I mean? That is our creme de la creme. That is our top of the top. And because, you know, Sagaar, you know, it seemed like he was having trouble, you know, reading that chart. And like, again, I don't know what his major was, but I'm pretty sure he didn't go to culinary school like I did. So I would expect him to be smarter than me. So this is 1, 2, and 3 together. And jump in anywhere y'all need to, especially you, Mud, because I know you know this shit. So this is 1, 2, and 3, right? Huh?
I said you're handling it. Like breaking it down.
Yeah. Oh, well, see, this is the thing. Listen, y'all. Listen. I need all of you people who do these progressive shows to understand we have been studying this shit for the past 2 years. We can rip your fucking arms off and beat you with them with this shit. So when you put out some propaganda bullshit, be ready for us to come for you, because we are not dumb. Contrary to popular belief, Black people are not dumb. We just don't get opportunities. We be the smartest broke motherfuckers ever. So
God,
let me get back into this.
Like really?
Me. You're not dumb, bro. John be having some profound shit. Though. So sorry, y'all. This is gonna be long because I'm going through all of this because Sagaar pissed me off. I made these charts this morning just so I could be like, "Fuck you, Sagaar," because you're an anti-Black racist and you're a fucking propagandist. So
just go grill his ass, grill him.
I'm gonna grill him like a motherfucker. He's a propagandist. Like, he literally just lied to, what do we say? There's almost 150,000 people that watch this shit. So 150,000 people just saw him say that he was looking at a chart and he says he sees that 75% of Black people have the same wealth as white people. So that's a lie. So he's gonna have white people out here thinking that Black people have the same struggles as them, and we don't. Y'all motherfuckers have more money. So here we go. This is the 1 percentile, right? This is the broke mother. This is the brokest of the broke. So the brokest of the broke white people are worth minus 11,600. The brokest of the broke Black people are worth $25,622. So blue is white and green is Black. So do you see how our shit is larger in the negative? So even when you start talking about poor whites, and you know me, I'm a champion of the poor whites because the ancestors keep telling me I got to help them, which I think is because some of you motherfuckers, y'all ancestors ran off and passed, and now y'all still in our bloodline. And I think that's why the ancestors keep forcing me to care about you. But since they do, I'm going to do what I do. So let's move into the second percentiles, right? So second percentile, which is, again, this is the one up from being the poorest. White folks, y'all got $51,118. Now, mind you, this is the mean. So this is the average. Black people got $2,394. So even for your poor whites, now mind you, in the second percentile, y'all not quite this lowest group, but I'm pretty sure that y'all are considered white trash by that group. So y'all still got what was that, 49,000, give or take, more than us, little give or take, maybe 48, just to be okay. So we get into the third percentile, right? Y'all got 171,978, and we got 19,753. So if you look at this, y'all got all this, and we got this. But Sagaar said that the bottom 75% have the same amount of wealth. This is the
Sagaar
bottom
said it's all the same.
This is the bottom 3 percentiles. Where do you see Black people having comparable wealth to white people? Even when you get into negative and poverty, we're still deeper in debt than white people are. So everything that Sagaar said was a lie, and he's an anti-Black racist. And I don't care what anybody says. And again, Sagaar, if you have a problem with me, start by telling me what your caste is, because I'm pretty sure that you're a Brahmin, which means you are the elite in your own country, and the people who look like me in your country are called untouchables. So why would you treat me different here? And I don't care if you're first generation. Those cultural things are inflicted in you. And I'm going to repeat this every time we talk about Sagaar, and y'all can Google this. In Silicon Valley, Indians are practicing caste against other Indians. So people who have come over here who are Brahmins, they are blocking out people who come from a lower caste in America from getting more money, higher jobs, because of their caste. So if they do this to their own people in America, again, I'm saying in America, I'm not talking about what people do in their own country, because what you do in your own country ain't none of my fucking business. I'm talking about what you do here in this country that we inhibit. So if they're doing this to people who come from their same country, what the fuck do you think they're doing to Black people? And to be honest, poor whites, y'all better wake up. So let me keep going. Okay, so I'm gonna do so I actually broke these charts down. So what is this? What chart is this? Okay, so this is the 4th percentile, right? So now, mind you, Sagaar said everybody, but this is the 4th decile. Yeah, sorry, this is the fourth decile. Sorry, I put percentile, y'all. It's the 4th decile. This is the 4th decile of the chart, right? So white people have 434,000, and we have 434,817. We have 76,000. Can people tell me how these charts compare? And then I know Sagaar was talking about in the 5th percentile, he was trying to say that that was the only place that there was a wealth difference. Hold on, sorry, I'm moving on. This is, oh no, this is 3. So this is the 3rd percentile. Again, this is in the part where, or the 3rd decile, sorry, the 3rd decile. So this is part of where Sagaar was saying that we have the same wealth. Because if he said the top 10%, I'm just going to take that as the 5% decile. Like the top of the top, we're going to use that as the number 5 marker. So this is in the middle somewhere, right? So you see even 3 is somewhere in the middle, right? 1 to 5, 3 is like the middle. 3 is the middle, right? So in the middle of the wealth, y'all look at this chart. Y'all have way more money than us. 171,000. So you might as well say 172,000 versus 20,000. How are we the same? So stop asking me about, what about poor whites? Listen, if y'all got to fight, y'all need to jump on so we can fight for this wealth redistribution. But outside of that, y'all still got more money. You may be poor, but you're not poor like us.
At all.
I'm sorry, y'all. I got to go through all these charts. Okay, so this is the 2nd percentile, right? Or sorry, the 2nd decile, right? So again, Sagaar said the bottom 75% had the same wealth, right? You see this high ass number for white people, 51,000. You might as well just round it down to 51,000. If you round Blacks down to 2,000, you see the difference in the charts. Do not allow these people to play you and lie to you, because they will have you out here saying white supremacist shit, and that's not your stilo. So, and for y'all that don't know what stilo is, let me translate. For you white people who are not racist and actually consider yourselves anti-racist or consider yourselves people who care about people, when you let Sagaar put that bullshit in your mind, he's fucking dropping propaganda. Nowhere in this chart are we anywhere near white people. Period. It is what it is. This is what the country has done. This is what many of your ancestors have done. So that was 2, right? Was that 3 or 2? Y'all don't remember, right?
I got I don't know.
I know, I'm sorry, there's so many. Okay, so this is the 1 decile, right? So this is the poorest of the poor, right? So the poorest of the poor, you see how white people, they poor, they in debt, but you see how much more in debt we are. So when y'all be like, but there's poor whites, your poor whites have more money than poor Blacks. Yeah, we all broke and we all in debt, but y'all still got more money. And again, that boils down to, if you want to fight for this wealth redistribution and get this money, but it's going to come with y'all signing on to reparations. If not, I don't give a fuck. And y'all can keep being broke, and we just going to keep living this fucked up life.
I'm saying.
Okay, I think I'm almost through with this. I think I've gone through all the charts I wanted to go through. So this is the top one. This is the one that Sagaar was talking about, right? When he was like, "Oh, the top 10% are." Yes. So when y'all think, so from now on, when you people sit here and be like, but Oprah and Jay-Z and Oprah, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Russell Wilson, Kanye West, all of them are in this little low black number. You see this big number? That's Jeff Bezos. That's fucking Bill Gates. That's what's the other fool name? Warren Buffett. So miss me. This is what Sagaar did, but Sagaar tried to equate like this was the only problem. But I already showed you where each chart that we are losing at every level decile. So people are out here lying and playing games. Like there's no other way to put it. Like you guys are anti-black white supremacists and y'all just need to own it. Like this is the thing, right? The reason why I like the South versus living in California, when I go into certain places that are racist, I don't know that they're racist. The people don't like me, but they don't tell me what's going on, but I can, but you know, you might catch some looks or people might say some shit. When I go to the South, if I go somewhere I'm not supposed to be, they're going to be like, oh, you're not from around here, huh? Well, you know, we don't really have many of your kind around here. Your people up the road. So, you know, have a good day. That is them telling you we don't fuck with you and you need to get the fuck up out our shit. Not saying that in 2020 that's okay, but trust and believe. I rather the person who tells me that I'm not in the right place and I don't belong there than the person who sits there and has to fight through a smile, but in their head they're like, this fucking nigga here. And those are the ones I gotta worry about rolling up on me. The racist white person told me to leave and not be there. The racist liberal, the racist liberal is giving me dirty looks and saying fuck shit under their breath, but I got to worry about them if I turn the corner because they might roll up on me. White people, the racist white people, white people told me we don't really want you around here and, you know, go about your day. And if you don't, you're going to have problems. At least I know when I'm in danger. You understand what I'm saying? Versus, so y'all get on my nerves, but this is it. I went through all the charts. I feel like I went through all the charts. Y'all got anything? Because like I said, Sagaar is a fucking liar and he's an anti-black racist. And either he can't read charts or he's just lying. He's a propagandist. Let's just call him a McCarthyite.
Or Matt Iglesias set those charts up to be.
You mean Matt Brunig? Matt Brunig did.
He definitely set those charts up to be deceptive. He definitely set them up to be deceptive.
Yeah. Exactly, because when you look at them, sorry, MG, I didn't mean to cut over you, but I'm gonna pull this chart up one more time. When you look at this chart, nowhere on this chart is it telling you where the money is being split. So here again, y'all are splitting at least $1 trillion per decile, right? Per decile. So where you see 74.6, that's $74.6 trillion. When we have 75.3%, that's for it's $130 billion. Okay. So we are not the same. You can't compare us to us. And if Sagaar didn't understand, he should have did more research before bringing his anti-black racist ass. What is your caste? On to the hill and saying that bullshit. No, for real. This is some racist ass shit. This is some racist ass shit, and this is fucking propaganda. And y'all sitting around watching this propaganda. And to be honest, I want a fucking apology. I doubt that I'll get one, but I need people to understand that Sagaar is an anti-black racist, and they are literally lying in this video. And MSNBC lies. Y'all supposed to be better than them, but you're fucking liars too. And this is why we don't trust you. And when you see black people wiling out on you online, this is why, because this is what we deal with every day. Go ahead, guys. I'm gonna mute myself for a minute.
Let me thank you, Sam. That was a presentation. Now I only have one thing to say, really. This is them taking a race project and trying to turn it into a class project. That's all this is, right? Because obviously there's an issue. Sam's numbers are 100% correct. He pulled them straight from Dr. Sandy Darity's numbers. She pulled them directly from Dr. Sandy Darity's numbers. So these are the numbers that Matt Brunig took and made them look like that previous chart. So it looks like that, okay, now all the money is at the top of the distribution. So let's go get that money at the top of the distribution. Not stating clearly that the top of our distribution and the top of the white distribution are not even miles apart. They are solar systems apart. Right. So we need to be honest about that. We need to be honest about that. And they're being totally dishonest about this. And this is the bullshit, like Sam was saying, this is the bullshit we talk about when we say people are racist or putting forward racist propaganda or things that are going to harm us, right? And as Sam stated, this is supposed to be the quote unquote left. Well, we know Sagaar is a right winger, right? I don't know if all you know that, but Sagaar is a right winger. Go to his Twitter profile and see that picture of him and Trump, and you'll understand what we're talking about. So nothing against whoever, but I'm just saying. All right, so that's all I got, folks. John?
Yeah, man. Sam just grilled his ass.
She broke it down. She broke it down.
Told you, she broke his whole fucking, see that, all the bullshit they be doing, son. And that shit is crazy, man. I've been knew that Sagaar was a brown supremacist, man. When I first seen this motherfucker, he just came out of nowhere just talking about something. He always talking about the culture war and why it's hurting the working class. And he talk, like, you already know, dog whistling like a motherfucker, just dog whistling. Like, bro, man, like, you was a Brown Klan member. Like, he a Brown Klan member. And I'm happy that Sam just called out his bullshit. He did all of this data and broke this shit down and realized he got all the way down, because you can't break it down unless you really did this. He did the studying. So he's seeing how the wealth, you feel me, was taken from us. Like, he's seen, you feel me, he went through, they did this shit down by like desktop, because when you're trying to figure out why something is the way it is, you have to go back and do the history and do the studying. So he knows why. Like, he knows there's a huge wealth gap, but he gonna send Sagaar the shit that look like our wealth the same as white people's shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? So they can make their anti-black, anti-ADOS class reduction arguments, man. But Sam just grilled his ass, like, real shit. Like, don't worry, I got a feeling Sagaar gonna be on the show a lot more, because he say a lot of anti-black bullshit, man. And that shit from the left got to really stop. You got to stop from everywhere.
All the time. Sagaar is a racist. He's an anti-black racist, and I don't give a fuck what he says. Like, you are, and he'd be like, "Oh, people, you are a brown-faced white supremacist. It doesn't matter. In your country, you are the white person of your country, because I'm sure you're a Brahmin. And if you aren't, then tell us, what is your caste? So you are racist in your own country. You look down on people who look like me and my family. And you only get a pass because here you get to be like, oh, well, he's brown too. No, you're a fucking anti-black racist, period. And you're a liar. Like, I have no respect for you. I can deal with racists, but don't sit there and be like, oh, well, I look at the charts and 70% of black people and white people have the same wealth. That is a fucking lie. And you are a propagandist. You are a McCarthyite. Even though you're not a Democrat, you're a McCarthyite. That is propaganda. And anybody who believes in justice should have a problem with this. And I need you white people to call Sagaar out on this shit. Because how would you feel right now if he was sitting there talking about your people like this? He is basically lying, trying to say that we are equal, and we have never been equal in this country. If you want to make us equal or you want to give us equity, that's one thing, but let's not sit here and lie about what the fuck is going on.
That's
what I'm
saying.
Sam said it all. I'm done.
We ready to go back to the video? I didn't even let Sagaar. Yeah, go ahead, Mud.
Yeah, I mean, shit, Sam broke it down. What it really is the deception. Like, this is that Lee Atwater shit. This is like this is the leftist version of it. But like Sagaar, of course, he's on the right, but what he's doing is drawing from the leftist arguments. That's the con of this show. What it is like the left and the right coming together using similar arguments for, you know, a purpose of really fucking over mainly us.
I'm gonna play, since you brought up that clip, Mud, I'm gonna play it for him just in case they don't know what it is.
Here's how I would approach that issue as a statistician or a political scientist, or no, as a psychologist, which I'm not, is how abstract you handle the race thing. In other words, you start out, and now y'all aren't quoting me on this. All right, I won't hear. You start out in 1954 by saying nigger, nigger, nigger. By 1968, you can't say nigger. That hurts your backfire. So you say stuff like forced busing, states' rights, and all that stuff. And you're getting so abstract now. You're talking about cutting taxes, and all of these things you're talking about are totally economic things. And the byproduct of them is blacks get hurt worse than whites.
That's all. The Democrats have found their own dog whistles. This class reductionist shit is a dog whistle. Oh, well, if we just forgive student loan debt and do and give people free college, then black people will be great. No, we'll still be fucking broke. Because we'll still have to depend on you to give us a fucking job. Even with our college degrees right now, white people who haven't fucking graduated high school, not have a high school diploma, not have a college degree, people who have not graduated high school have more wealth than black people. That's it.
Yeah, well, just to be clear, these folks are supposed to be left of the Democrats. Well, Crystal's supposed to be left of the Democrats, but at the end of the day, for us, it's all the same shit. It's all the same shit. Left, right, and center.
All right. So the entire racial wealth gap, as we understand it, is between the top 10% of whites and the top 10% of blacks. Both of those groups hold the majority of wealth in that.
But again, I'm sorry, I know we already went through this, but look at him smiling and playing games. And Crystal, for you to go along with this, you suspect to me too, boo-boo. I know Irony likes you, but you know, I have an issue with white women. I say that all the time. That's why I work through it. But I don't trust you, because for Sagaar to say that, oh, it's only between the top. I already showed y'all the charts. Sagaar's a fucking liar. He's either a fucking liar or he's stupid and can't read charts. Either way, like, again, 150 people have seen this fucking propaganda.
Category. Same with college degrees. Same with non-college degrees. Same with every racial group in America.
And we know that's bullshit. Hold on, let me pull up that chart real quick, because he said same with college degrees, right? I already said that a white person who doesn't graduate high school has more wealth than a person who has a college degree. So, you know, if you notice all this shit that Sagaar's talking, because y'all see that I put this shit up, and I'm gonna make sure you can see him, and y'all need to go back and watch this video yourself. If you notice, when he's talking all this shit, they didn't put up one chart. When people start talking numbers and they don't put up charts, be suspect, because they pull in a con.
Exactly.
So let's go ahead and pull this shit up. Again, when he's like, oh, if it's wealth, right? If they have college degrees or not. High school diploma or less, white people, 265,000. Black people, 0. Latinx, 5,050. Asians, not available. You know why it's not available? Because over 63% of Asians have college degrees. Okay? That's why it's not available. They don't not graduate high school. Bachelor's degree, right? You got, 258,000 blacks, minus 19,000. Latinos, 53,000. Fucking Asian, 705,000. So when y'all be like, well, what about Latino numbers? Y'all just got here and y'all are in the positive and we in the negative. So yeah, you don't match white numbers, but you just got here and you didn't build a country. No disrespect, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like they just want to make it a conversation about poverty when it's not that. Like the bigger conversation is the harm that has been done to citizens in America to create that poverty. Not every group has a story like that. Like the natives might have a story like that, and they've already had their, received certain benefits for that. And then there's us, ADOS, and we have not received benefits. So what the conversation needs to be about is, reparations, something to resolve this grievance. Like these other groups that might have poverty, like, okay, yeah, we might need to do a poverty program, but that's a different conversation. Like Black people need to be put out of that conversation. That conversation needs to be a general American conversation after you've done reparations or after you committed to reparations.
You got anything more for us, John?
Yeah, man, y'all, all right, y'all killing them, man. Like, real talk, it just, it's like, to me, Sagaar he just punching bag to us, man. It's just that, but the thing about it, I understand, I see Sam Rage is really justified, because what he's doing, son, is he's really, like, this is dangerous to what he's really doing when MG was talking about we facing genocide. This is fueling that shit, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you come on you feel me? Y'all like this rising, it's the left wing, this a left wing show, and this is this. And you bringing Fox News talking point, the lefties.
Yeah, the KKK populists.
Word up. And they agreeing with each other too, right in front of us. We like, oh, what the fuck? Like, real,
exactly.
You see Cal on there.
And Crystal's supposed to be super left, right? She's supposed to be a progressive, and Sagaar's supposed to be a Republican. But listen, this is what I experienced with the Bernie shit. Y'all both sides are racist, and y'all love dunking on black people. Y'all love fucking pissing on our cornflakes.
Both Crystal Ball and Saga's anti-black devils. I'm sorry, they goddamn devils, man. Like they got to stop this shit, man, because they just lying and being disingenuous and trying to just motherfucking do all this class reductionism. They try to act like class reductionism isn't real. It isn't a real thing. We got to give the white poors the same as the black. But that Sam just showed, the black poors have less than the white poors due to slavery, due to shit that the government did to our families. White people are poor due to the failures of American capitalism. Like I said before, like we are the fucking, you feel me? Like we are the foundation that shit is built upon. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just because capitalism ain't working out for you, now you feel me? Like that's not, capitalism ain't working out for us, but that's because we built the motherfucker. Like, you know what I mean? It's built on our failure. Like, that's why. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's built on our failure. And this shit is, hey Sam, that's all I got to say about this shit. This shit is ridiculous. Right.
I'm gonna piggyback off of what you said. My teacher said it the best. She was my history teacher. She's a friend of mine. She said, "Black people are the leather strap that the knife is sharpened on to cut all other groups' throats."
Yeah.
That's it. I'm gonna go ahead and play the video.
America. Are you beginning to sense a pattern? If you break it down by every metric possible, the top 10% owns the majority of the wealth, which means...
Sorry, I'm gonna pause that. That is true. The top 10% of white people own the majority of the wealth in their demographic, and the top 10% of black people own the majority of the wealth in the black demographic. But again, I'm about to pull up this chart again while this motherfucker is lying, and I'm going to show you how the top 10% of blacks are still fucking paupers compared to white people. Again, Sagaar is a brown-faced white supremacist who is most likely a Brahmin, and I need him to identify his caste, and he is out here pushing, I don't even know. It is genocide, because basically what these two people are telling you, what this white woman and this fucking brown Brahmin, who is the white person in his country, are saying is that black people should just be fixed through universal policies that will not even fix poor whites. Until I hear a policy made that'll fix a poor white person, I'm not listening to it, because if you're not fixing your poor whites, you're damn sure not fixing us, because we're fucking poorer. The shit that you're talking about doesn't fix your own people. So why the fuck would I think that you care about mine? Should I just go back to playing the video, or y'all got anything else?
Any redistributive policy or universalist policy, which affects things across the board, is going to rise from the bottom 50% up within that category. That is how you solve these problems. I've been beating this drum for a long time against the identitarians, because it's just like, this is what Iglesias says. He says that almost every racial inequality can be greatly ameliorated with normal redistributive policy. And Democrats have tied themselves into the knots with the idea that this is not true. And it's...
I just want to throw this out there for people who are listening. What is normal? No, what is normal redistributive policy? What does that mean? If you know, please drop it in the chat. Do you know, Mud?
It means ignore race and allow black people to remain on the bottom of the society. That's what it means.
For real. And you see what he said? Yeah, he was like, these identitarians, you know. He's talking about people that care about black people.
Yeah, fuck these black people who are American descendants of slavery, who actually want something and actually want a piece of the American pie that they fucking built. Everybody talks about the American dream. How is it that the motherfuckers who descend from the people who built the American dream can't fucking have it? I told that shit to my homegirl. That's probably why she don't talk to me no more. I told her, I was like, your parents came here for you to live a better life and for you to have the American dream. I was like, you live in a small ass apartment, you have a shitty job. At least you don't want to have kids, so at least you won't have to worry about the permanent struggle. But if you wanted to have a family, you would be struggling. I was like, the best thing that you have is that your family's the tight knit. So y'all came here for the American dream. You're not getting it. Your sisters aren't getting it. So who the fuck is getting it? So this American dream is a fucking myth and a lie. And you get mad at black people for wanting this bullshit that you've been selling. We built the American dream. Y'all came here for free land for the hopes of you get some land and then you get you some niggas to farm it. Like, fuck you.
Right.
And this doesn't go for all of you, but again, some of y'all need to learn your history because some of you motherfuckers listening to me right now descend from fucking slave owners. And if you descend from a slave owner, you have some reckoning to do, whether you like it or not. You ain't necessarily got to tell people, but you need to figure out how you're going to make Black people's lives better because your life is built on the backs of our ancestors. And motherfucker, we're fucking family.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah, you said the words.
No, because that's how I feel. It's so ridiculous. Like, a lot of y'all try to present, oh, well, you know, most people didn't own slaves. Do your ancestry. I have a feeling a lot of y'all gonna be able to trace y'all motherfucking ancestors back to plantations. And even for you fuckers who didn't own slaves, it was very usual for people who had less money to rent slaves. So let's say you didn't have enough money to own a plantation, but you did have a little bit of land that you needed to farm. You could go to the plantation owner and rent you a slave for a day, a week, months. So for some of y'all, be like, well, my family never owned slaves. Your family could have still been fucking slave drivers. And let's go further. Even for those of y'all who didn't own slaves, you guys were the ones who were the slave drivers. You were working as the people who were the, what are they called? The overseers. You were working as overseers. White women and white men were fucking slave catchers. And all that fucking cotton that was being picked was going to the North. And your fucking parents who were in the North working in those factories that you complain about working at slave wages, which is fucking rude. A slave does not get paid. So for your family members who are working at fucking poverty wages, we picked that cotton so you could have a fucking job. The same way Black people being locked up is a fucking jobs program for you and y'all people. Y'all be in the middle of a fucking white ass town in the middle of nowhere. No Black people in town, but y'all got a prison with a bunch of Black people in it. And everybody in town work at the prison. That's a jobs program. You are eating off of our failure. So I need y'all to wake the fuck up. And if you don't want to wake up, just like Robin DiAngelo says,
that's the choice you're going to make. I'd like you to go home, look at yourself in the mirror, right in the eyes, and say, I choose to collude with white supremacy. And then carry on, but let's do it with honesty. The default of the status quo is the reproduction of racial inequality. That's what our society does. By every measure, we have racial inequality. Every measure. Our schools are particularly effective for reproducing racial inequality. And since it is the default, it requires nothing more than white people being really nice and carrying on, right? Because niceness is not courageous. And it won't get racism on the table, and it won't keep it on the table when everybody wants it off the table.
Listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again, we grilling them. Put them back on the grill again, we grilling them. Put them back on the grill again, we grilling them. Back on the grill again, we grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake. On the edge, go back to US Southern plantations. Penniage, Jim Crow, and mass incarceration. Redlining lynchings, we are old from this nation. You're not about justice if you ain't for reparations. MG, the wise one, cousin, mother, intellectual. Samantha bringing fire, anti-black, we pressing you. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. The backbone of the country, to win, you need our energy. You gon' see? Listening to Reset Race, you now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again, we grilling them. Put them back on the grill again, we grilling them. Put them back on the grill again, we grilling them. Back on the grill again, we grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake.
Until you do right by me, everything you think about is gonna crumble.
Recently, y'all had a paper on the racial wealth gap. It's often explained as a gap between whites and blacks. That's how when we talk about racial disparities, we're talking about two different racial groups. But sometimes the way it's explained is as if the two groups are monolithic. Sometimes it's almost like you're talking about two different people. There's one person in one category, there's one person in the other category. But as we know, both these groups have tens of millions of people. In the case of whites, certainly it's a massive group of people, 200 million people, I think, in the US, around that. And you actually found there's a lot of differences within those groups, and that maybe another way to think about this wealth gap is that it's actually a gap where a lot of people of both groups just don't have that much wealth to begin with, but there may be a bigger disparity with the top. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, the one kind of easy way to do the racial wealth gap thing is to just, let's add up all the black wealth, divided by the number of black households. Usually wealth is done on a household level because, it's kind of difficult with spouses to distinguish, who owns what. And let's do the same thing for white families. How much per household? And you do that and you get about $900,000 per white family, which is very high. It's a very high amount. And then for black families, it's $140,000. And so you'll see either that statistic or you'll see a statistic where they're comparing the median white family to the median black family, and you'll see a big disparity. And what I actually kind of figured out many years ago when I was trying to kind of come up with different proposals about how to fix the racial wealth gap is that if you take those averages and you break them out in each group and you say, okay, we know on average white families have $900,000, but how much do the bottom 10% of white families have? How much do the middle 10%? How much do the top 10%? And when you do that, you basically find that the top 10% of white families owns 75% of white wealth. And then the bottom half owns like 2%. And then you have a sort of middle class in the middle that owns the remaining 23% or whatever. You go into the black family and say, okay, that's very interesting. White wealth very unevenly distributed. It's mostly at the top. Now, when I first get that finding, I'm kind of like, in some ways, this is helpful for closing the racial wealth gap because you don't really have to ask too many people to pay. If there's only a handful of white people who have the wealth, it's like, we always have the problem with middle class taxes and people don't want to pay that. You don't need middle class taxes because all the wealth's at the top.
Pay attention to the hustle because he just said it, but he's trying to confuse you. He's throwing a lot at you to throw you off. So yes, the overall wealth is much lower. That's the problem. But now he's trying to say that the distribution is similar when you break it down like this. But who asked him to break it down like this? No one asked for this. Like, what is this? What is he doing?
At least, for this kind of project. So, okay, well, let's look at the black wealth distribution. You go to the black wealth distribution. The same thing, it looks identical. The top 10% of black families own 75% or more of black wealth, bottom half, 1-2%. Now, the total amount of wealth is much lower, as we just discussed, but the distribution within each race is basically the same. And so you kind of take a step back and you say, wow, this overall disparity is really driven by the fact that the top 10% of white people are very, very wealthy. The top 10% of black people they own almost all black wealth, but they're not nearly as wealthy as the top 10% of white people. And that's driving the whole show. And I show in my piece that that's driving about 77.5%, over 3/4 of the racial wealth gap is just the difference between the wealthiest 10% of white people and the wealthiest 10% of black people. And once you figure that out, it kind of changes the story of like, what are we going to do here to fix this problem? It throws a wrench in things.
No, that doesn't change anything. Like, I don't know what the fuck you think you're doing. You've given me a vague ass chart, and you've thrown some numbers around, but you really haven't made a case for anything. Like, you need to get that part together.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't sound like from the numbers that you just relayed that we really are talking about just like grabbing someone from each population and then you can you're assured that one is going to be just way wealthier than the other because it's so much of it is towards the top. It seems like actually if you look at like the bottom half of each group, there's just not a whole lot of wealth there, period.
If you grab from that negative 3.3 quadrant on the black graph, which is the vast majority. And that's another thing that is very funny about this chart. It doesn't tell you how many people are actually in each group. But that bottom quadrant for black people is the vast majority of black people. You put them against anyone else in the quadrants for white people, there is a good chance that every black person in that bottom quadrant has less money than everyone else. But again, that's besides the point.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so one kind of neat statistic would be, let's take the bottom 10% of white families and the bottom 10% of black families. What's the difference between them? And the answer is $15,000. And hey, 15,000. I would like to have 15,000 more dollars. Like, who wouldn't? Mm-hmm. You go to the top 10% of white families and the top 10% of black families. The average difference there is $5.6 million. Mm-hmm. So the gap between sort of the black and white upper class is like 350 times larger than the gap between the white and black lower class, defined as the top 10% and bottom 10%.
He still hasn't explained why we have to break it down this way, why we are comparing these groups this way. Like he's clear that we're not even talking about similar wealth even within these ranges. So what exactly is he doing? I don't see the point of this, especially when we're talking about the racial wealth gap. We are talking about a greater conversation than this. In the case of black Americans who descend from American chattel slavery, we are talking about centuries of the government sabotaging our community through government laws and regulations. We're pointing to that and saying because of that, America has to deal with the wealth gap that it has created. And part of that is that the fact that we can point to things that the American government has done to benefit its white citizens exclusively. So it doesn't make sense to try to view this through a capitalistic lens or through a class lens. I mean, this has nothing to do with the point.
Do you have any information about where that wealth at the top is stored? Like, we often think about a lot of average people, which is another reason why the racial wealth gap conversation can be a little maddening at times, because a lot of people just don't have like wealth. Like when I think about money, I just think about my income. Like I don't have a house, I don't have like cars, and I don't have fancy paintings or property or anything. I don't even have that much wealth to begin with. So at the very top where all this wealth is stored, where are they storing this wealth? Like what does that wealth consist of?
Yeah, it consists of mostly corporate equity of one sort or another. So you could think about Jeff Bezos. He has over $100 billion in wealth. It's almost all Amazon stock, which I think he owns something like 20 or 30% of. So he doesn't even own the whole company, but he owns like 20 to 30% of it, and that is enough to get him to that level. And some really affluent people own their own businesses, and so you'll get the equity of their own business. I guess Amazon is sort of Jeff's business, not really anymore because it's publicly traded, but that's really where it is. And I think you're right. There is a very big difference, and part of the reason why I think people can sometimes get a bit confused about this between the way, I don't know, middle class people might think about wealth and the way the people who actually own almost all the wealth think about it. And someone pointed this out on Twitter when I was kind of having a discussion about this piece. They were saying, well, the reason that there's a little bit of difficulty in comprehending this is that a normal person, a media person who might be middle class and like talks about this thing, when they're thinking about wealth, they're thinking about basically two things. They want to buy a home, they want to have money to retire, and maybe save money for college. That's really what they're thinking about. It's just kind of getting through life. And, that's important, but that's really not, that's not where the big bucks are. It's not like Jeff Bezos has a giant 401k or 529, or, he does have a giant house, but like, that's not what it's about,
Actually, when you're talking about black wealth, that is exactly what you're talking about. You're talking about pensions and house ownership from baby boomers. That's where the vast majority of wealth in the black community is. It is in the small amount of black people who were able to get in and have those union jobs, those last little bit of union jobs, to pay them a pretty good pension. And also the few black people that held on to their homes through all of these housing crises, those are the people that have wealth in the black community, the vast majority. Now, you might point to a few entertainers and pretend that it's like there's something comparable happening, but that is not the case. There is no black version of Jeff Bezos. I don't care if you bring up Oprah. I don't care who the fuck you bring up. There is no comparison. There are white people that Oprah has to answer to in her industry. There are white people that she has to go to get financing for things that she wants to do. Because she is not the person that controls things. She is not the power broker. She's just the face.
Yeah, and so I know you've done a lot of work on like closing these gaps, or at least reducing their size, not only like between racial categorizations, but between class categorizations, or any other way you can think of people, just closing gaps between people who are on the bottom and people who are on the top. What are some ideas you think that could be helpful in that regard? And maybe what's your critique of maybe some of the other ideas you've seen out there that maybe wouldn't be as helpful given the information that you've discovered and seen?
So, when it comes to the racial wealth gap, over the years, I've kind of thought about 4 different possibilities. The first one, and people talk a lot about this, though I don't think they think too hard about it, is let's just get the median black family up to the median white family, right? And that is actually not difficult to do because, like we said, there's very little wealth in the bottom and in the middle of society, right? The bottom half owns like 1 or 2% of the wealth. And of course, the black population is only 13% of the population. So if you want to kind of top them off and get them to the median, I calculated it's about 0.5% of national wealth. Like you could pretty much do that by just getting some money from white billionaires together, and you could make it happen. But as you might expect, something that cheap doesn't really solve the big problem. In fact, it only solves about 3% of the problem if you're talking about the overall racial wealth gap. So that seems like a dead end. Like a solution where 97% of the racial wealth gap remains is no solution at all, it would seem to me. So then you move into the second category and you say, okay, we're not going to close the median, we're going to close the mean, the average, right? The difference between 900,000 for white families and 140 for black families. And how are we going to do that? And you kind of break off into 2 ideas. You say, well, let's just make the black distribution match the white distribution, right? So, the wealthiest black person will have as much as the wealthiest white person. The poorest black person will have as much as the poorest white person.
What the fuck is he talking about? He is the only person proposing this idea. And the only reason he is proposing this idea is because he wants to use reparations to kind of force some type of wedge between rich black people and poor black people to jumpstart some socialist bullshit that has nothing to do with fucking reparations. Like, I don't even get where this is fucking coming from. Like, if we're talking about the original concept, it was at the end of the Civil War, and then you were going to give every slave 40 acres and a mule. That was the breakdown. There was no, we're going to put this in a capitalist algorithm and give the richest slave as much as the richest white person and the poorest slave. No, that's not what the fuck it was about. And that's not what the fuck it's about now.
White person. So it'll be very unequal, but it'll be equal between the races. They'll look the same. The lines will overlap, right?
Yeah.
But when you kind of go down that path, you say, well, if we did that, then that would mean that we would give, again, 350 times more money to the wealthiest black families than the poorest black families, which also seems absurd, right? So then you go into a third possibility and you say, well, okay, why don't we just give out an equal amount to each black family and we'll close the mean that way. And I've done the math on that. It's a little over 600,000. That's how much you'd have to give to each family to bring the 900,000 for whites and 140 to blacks to bring them together. But when you do that and you give every black family, whatever it is, $620,000 or something like that, what ends up happening is the poorest black family, literally the poorest black family in the country, is wealthier than 68% of white families.
And why is that a problem? I mean, if we're talking about people who have largely been excluded from the free market for the vast majority of the country's history, we're talking about a federal government who has undermined them through exclusion in the Homestead Act, exclusion from FHA subsidies that basically created the suburbs, and the FHA wanted to make the suburbs exclusively white. And I got a video on that. But anyways, we've been excluded in that way. We've been excluded, we've been excluded through the GI Bill. We've been excluded. I mean, just look at redlining. Look at the whole fucking concept. And you damn fucking right. We're supposed to be like, no black person should be in poverty after reparations is done. Like, that's the whole fucking point.
So there are no black families in the bottom 2/3 of society. And curiously, there also would be very few black families at the very top of society, because 600,000 is not going to get you up into the 1% or anything like that.
And see, this is what the dumbass doesn't really understand. That's not the fucking point. We're not trying to get it to where certain people are in the 1% or everybody's in the 1%. That's not what we're doing this for. What we're trying to do is get black people to some form of American normalcy. And it's mainly based on the fact that we have been left out of American normalcy.
And by the way, as a side note, the Latino wealth is very similar to black wealth, right? Like
it's almost identical.
So this would also leave that group just completely out to dry.
What do they have to do with black people? I don't understand this. I don't understand how that even comes into the discussion. They aren't black people. We aren't the same. We aren't interchangeable. We don't have the same experience in America. We didn't have the same history in America. None of this is the same. So why is that even brought up?
Yeah, they would still be just like the black wealth distribution, just still hanging out, as they are now. Some people say, well, okay, maybe we should address that separately or whatever. But yeah, they wouldn't be helped by that.
Yes, worry about that issue separately. The same way when you're dealing with their issues, you decide to handle black people separately, do that. I see no reason why we need to switch up now, especially since completely different things happen to the two groups.
But anyway, so you're like, well, that's kind of silly as well. It would seem a little bit weird to imagine that, but for histories of racism and slavery and Jim Crow and so on, every black family would be in like the upper middle class. There would be none at the top and none at the bottom. That doesn't really make sense either.
That's because that's not the fucking case. No one is making that fucking argument. What people are saying is that because of the history of slavery and segregation, That's why you need to make all these black people who come from American bondage whole.
So that's number 3. So then you go, okay, well, the median doesn't really work. Matching the distributions, that seems goofy. You're just giving a bunch of money to affluent black families. Flat payment, weird. All, you know, just every black family's in the upper middle class. Like,
I see nothing weird about it. You have not explained why it's weird. In fact, that is the correct thing to do.
And then you're left with, well, we need to do general redistribution.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the point where the mask is off and you can completely see the snake that this person actually is. Again, like I was trying to explain, all of this was some convoluted bullshit to funnel us back to some socialist nonsense. They just don't have the balls to be honest about what the fuck they're doing. These are not allies. These are your fucking enemies. Look at the face. Remember it. Remember his fucking name. Any fucking time they try to come at you with some bullshit about how they're trying to fix inequality, remember what the fuck they mean. They don't mean fixing shit for you. They don't mean justice for you. It's fuck you. They are trying to take your shit and twist it.
You know, the top 10% of the country in terms of wealth is almost all white, like 90+% white. The bottom half is about 50-50, black, Latino, and white, or I guess I should say non-white and white, right? 50-50. So move money from the top to the bottom, you solve both problems at the same time, because the racial gap shrinks and the class gap shrinks, and you don't run into those other problems. It just sort of solves both problems simultaneously, brings everyone up together. You would think less resentment from Latinos and poor whites who are kind of like, well, hey,
This is bullshit. If you're going to move poor whites up alongside poor blacks, you're not closing the racial wealth gap. You're only deepening it. He knows that. But it's not about closing the racial wealth gap. It's about this working class wealth redistribution, and black people are not in the equation in his mind. Our situation is not really the concern. And you see what he did about this whole fucking resentment game. So everybody else can get justice in this fucking country, and we're not concerned about resentment because we're more concerned about fucking justice. But when black people are in a position to receive fucking justice, that's when all these motherfuckers come out the bag with what they really fucking feel. And this is what they really mean. They mean their own resentment. These motherfuckers aren't your friends. They're your enemies.
And is there anything else you'd like to add just about kind of how you think we should rethink the way that we think about this gap?
I think one thing we should think about a little bit more on this, and this is more on the kind of conceptual, philosophical level, is I think that people are maybe not as thoughtful on, who did Jim Crow and slavery, like who kind of got cut down the most on that.
This is like some super villain shit that he's doing right now. Like, it's some real diabolical shit. Because he took the Reparations project and he deconstructed it. And he really set it up to manipulate people, to be anti-capitalist. And look, I get that's what your agenda is, but come on, man. Like, do black people really need this shit? How could you sit here and act like How could you sit here and act like you are an ally? And you really are trying to derail reparations by, like, with a straight, like, Trojan horse tactic of causing friction between black folks, rich and poor, over who was harmed by slavery and segregation more. And you're not even like on some real scientific shit where you went back and you traced everybody's history and you can say for some fact that you know who was damaged in which economic way. No, you're really just playing with numbers and using it, like you're weaponizing it to just fuck with us.
Because I think when you present the fact that, hey, the difference is mostly between the top 10%, I think people recoil from that a little bit. They think that there's something goofy and weird going on. But, I think it's worth pointing out that, in a capitalist system in general, right, the bottom half, the middle class, they get their money comes in the door, money comes out the door. They don't accumulate very much.
No one is recoiling from the fact that you're comparing poor white people to poor black people right now, today. Like, obviously, if you compare poor white people to poor black people, they're going to have poverty in common. So, the problem here is that you want to talk about the situation without putting it in any historical context. So yes, maybe today white people in poverty cannot build wealth, just like black people in poverty can't build wealth, just like all people in poverty can't build wealth. But we're talking about black people, people who have been here since the beginning of the country and have been sabotaged during the whole existence of this country. So, like, the government created this wealth gap. Like, it has perpetuated a situation where its white citizens were able to build wealth and its black citizens were stuck in a situation of poverty.
It's really only the top that's capable of accumulating a lot.
Right.
And so it shouldn't be surprising that that's where you find the difference.
Right.
It shouldn't be surprising that when they expropriated all those black farmers back in the day, that's going to show up in the top 10% because people who own their own land, that's they're relatively well off to own your own land. Like most black people and most white people didn't own their own land.
He's saying that it should be no surprise to anyone that this is how it ends up, based on a capitalistic algorithm that he has created in his own mind. And what he's doing is he's taking the outcomes that have come about because of the racism that black people have experienced, and saying that he has been able to calculate what would have happened if racism never happened, but he's basing that on the outcomes of a society with racism, which makes absolutely no fucking sense. He's not going back into your lineage, looking at every disadvantage that your family has experienced, and then coming up with a calculation that would show what exactly you should have earned based on the harm that was done to your family. Even though that's kind of like the argument he's trying to claim that he's making here, all he is doing is using these outcomes. Well, where is he starting from? If racism never happened in America, would black people have ever come here as slaves? And if they did, then are we starting from the point of freedom for the slaves? Or are we starting from like the point of the beginning of the country? Like, where are we starting from? Because if we're starting from 1865, when they freed the slaves, which would make the most sense, then we would be talking about each black person getting 40 acres and a mule. That way, like, all the poor black people who were formerly slaves, they would all have land. which is a complete contradiction of the bullshit he just tried to tell us. And another contradiction of the bullshit that he's trying to tell us is this idea that poor people didn't own land at some mysterious time period that he has not been very clear about. Because if we look at the Homestead Act, if we look at FHA subsidies, like the GI Bill, like all that good shit that has happened with housing in this country, that's a complete lie. So, like, we got to be real about what's happening here.
Or even things like redlining. If you're in the bottom class, lower classes of Black people, you were not ever getting a home. You were going to rent all the time. So redlining really hurt middle class and especially upper class Black families who were unable to buy in better areas and got worse, you know. And so
I thought he just said that he was doing a model of what would have happened to Black people just through capitalism without any racism involved. If that was the case, then redlining wouldn't have happened. See, this is the problem. Like, he doesn't know how he's even trying. He doesn't even know what he's trying to argue. Like, this is, it's just complete bullshit. And if he knows about redlining, then he knows he was just lying to you about poor white people's ability to build wealth versus poor Black people's ability to build wealth. He knows better than the shit he was just trying to tell you.
You know, it shouldn't be shocking that this is how it plays out, and it just kind of adds a little more texture to the story, as opposed to, I think for some people they view it as, oh, you're just trying to say, you know, there was no racism or oppression and so on. It's like, no, that's not true at all. It's just we need to think harder about where that would have materialized, and for the most part, it's keeping down the Black upper class, people who would have owned things, people who would have had businesses, because that's where the wealth would have accumulated. And that's where they stopped the wealth from accumulating. The bottom would have never accumulated wealth. The bottom 30% of white families have an average of $980.
Well, you clearly don't understand the history of racism in this country. You don't understand redlining. Like, this is a real shitty analysis, and I don't understand how the fuck you get a paycheck for doing this bullshit.